The text message from Dad arrived at 2:47 p.m. on Friday afternoon, just as I was reviewing quarterly reports in my downtown office. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, including the elegant Grandview Manor where my parents were planning their 25th anniversary celebration tomorrow night. Don't ruin our anniversary celebration. Stay home. We want this to be perfect without any drama. This is our special day and we can't have you making a scene like you always do. Dad. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling the familiar sting of rejection that had become my constant companion over the past 5 years. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I considered various responses, each one more cutting than the last. Instead, I typed back a simple response, understood. Setting my phone aside, I returned to the financial documents spread across my mahogany desk. The numbers were impressive. Torres Hospitality Group had exceeded projections again this quarter. Our portfolio of luxury venues, restaurants, and event spaces across the city had generated over $43 million in revenue, with the crown jewel being Grandview Manor itself. My parents had no idea that their disappointment of a daughter owned the very venue where they'd planned their perfect anniversary party. To them, I was still Sofia Torres, the family failure who dropped out of their social circle to pursue what they called meaningless hospitality work. The irony wasn't lost on me. While they'd spent the last 5 years telling everyone I was wasting my life in service jobs, I'd been quietly building a hospitality empire. What started as managing a small catering company had evolved into owning 15 premier venues, 3 award-winning restaurants, and a catering operation that served the city's elite. My assistant Maria knocked and entered, carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a concerned expression. Miss Torres, your 3 p.m. is here. But before they come in, are you all right? You seem upset. Thank you, Maria. I'm fine. Just family complications. She nodded sympathetically. Maria had been with me for 3 years and had witnessed enough family-related stress to understand without asking for details. Should I reschedule if you need time? No, send them in. Business helps me focus. As I prepared for my meeting with potential investors interested in expanding Torres Hospitality Group to the West Coast, my mind drifted to how I'd ended up here. 5 years ago, I'd walked away from my family's expectations to follow my passion for hospitality. They'd wanted me to marry Robert Henderson, son of their wealthy friends, and settle into the role of a society wife managing charity galas and tennis club memberships. Instead, I'd chosen to start at the bottom of the catering industry, learning every aspect of event planning and hospitality management. The decision had cost me dearly. Family dinners became interrogations about when I'd come to my senses. Social events turned into lectures about my wasted potential and how I was embarrassing the family name. Eventually, the invitations stopped coming altogether. My mother had been particularly vocal about her disappointment. Sophia, you're throwing away everything we've given you, she'd said during our last real conversation 2 years ago. You could have married Robert, lived in that beautiful house in Westfield, had children by now. Instead, you're what? A party planner? A caterer? It's beneath our family's status. But I'd persevered. Working 18-hour days, I'd learned every aspect of the business. From kitchen management to event coordination, from vendor negotiations to customer service. Every rejection from my family had fueled my determination to succeed on my own terms. The acquisition of Grandview Manor had been my proudest moment. The previous owners, struggling with debt and renovation costs, had accepted my offer of $2.8 million without knowing that the young woman in the simple business suit was the same Sofia Torres their society friends whispered about with pity. Saturday evening arrived with typical autumn weather, crisp air and clear skies perfect for an elegant celebration. I was in my apartment, a penthouse that overlooked the city and cost more than my parents' house, when my phone rang at 5:30 p.m. Miss Torres, this is James from Grandview Manor Security. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. James had been my head of security for 2 years, a former police detective who understood the delicate nature of high-end events. His calm, professional tone usually meant serious business. What kind of situation, James? There's been an incident with the Henderson anniversary party. About 30 minutes ago, a young woman arrived claiming to be their daughter. The family became very upset and had her removed from the premises. I sat up straighter in my leather chair, setting down the glass of wine I'd been nursing. Removed. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Henderson was quite vocal about not wanting her there. Said something about her being an embarrassment to the family and that she'd specifically been told not to come. The young woman left quietly, but she seemed very upset. My heart clenched. Even after explicitly being told not to come, some part of me had apparently hoped I could just observe from a distance, maybe catch a glimpse of the celebration through the windows, see my family happy together one more time. The young woman didn't cause any disturbance? None whatsoever. She arrived quietly, approached the family table, and was immediately confronted by Mrs. Henderson. From what our staff observed, she simply said she wanted to wish them well and left when asked. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar sting of my mother's rejection. Even when I tried to be respectful to honor their wishes while still showing love, it hadn't been enough. I see. Is there anything else? Well, ma'am, that's why I'm calling. Mrs. Henderson is now demanding we provide additional security to ensure the young woman doesn't return. She's also asking for detailed background checks on all our staff, claiming she doesn't trust anyone who might have connections to her daughter. The request stung more than I'd expected. My own mother wanted background checks on my employees to ensure none of them might be loyal to me. She's also requested that we ban the young woman from the property permanently, James continued. She mentioned that they frequently host events at upscale venues and expect a certain level of security from establishments that cater to people of their caliber. I felt my jaw tighten. Even in her rejection, my mother couldn't resist a subtle threat about taking their business elsewhere. What was the young woman's name? Sophia Torres, ma'am. The pieces clicked into place. My parents had no idea they were asking my own security team to ban me from my own property. James, I need you to do something for me. Call the Henderson party and ask to speak with Mrs. Henderson privately. Yes, ma'am. Tell her that due to the disturbance and security concerns, management needs to review the remainder of the evening's arrangements. Ask if she'd prefer to handle this matter directly with the venue owner. Should I mention that you're? Not yet. Just see what she says. And James? Record the conversation. I want documentation of exactly what's said. Understood, ma'am. While I waited for James to call back, I pulled up the Henderson reservation details on my laptop. My parents had booked the grand ballroom for 60 guests, with premium catering, an open bar and live music. The total cost was $18,000, a significant amount, but not unusual for Grandview Manor's clientele. What caught my attention was the reservation history. This wasn't their first event here. They'd hosted my brother Miguel's engagement party 8 months ago, and before that several business dinners for Dad's real estate firm. In total, the Henderson family had spent over $40,000 at my venue in the past year. All while telling people their daughter was a failure. 10 minutes later, James called back. Miss Torres, Mrs. Henderson would very much like to speak with the venue owner. She wants to ensure that her daughter won't be allowed to ruin any future family events here. Did she say anything else? She mentioned that her family frequently uses high-end venues across the city and that this kind of security breach could damage our reputation with people who matter. She also suggested that word travels fast in their social circle about venues that can't properly screen undesirable guests. The threat was clear. Ban Sophia Torres or lose the business of the Henderson family and their influential friends. I felt a familiar mixture of hurt and determination. James, please inform Mrs. Henderson that the venue owner will speak with her personally. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Should I prepare anything specific? Have the full reservation details ready, including payment history and tonight's final bill. Also, prepare our standard venue owner introduction packet, the one we use for VIP clients. Yes, ma'am. Should I inform the rest of the staff? Just you and Maria for now. I want this handled discreetly. I changed into a sleek black business suit, the kind I wore for important negotiations or when I needed to project absolute authority. My reflection in the mirror showed a successful businesswoman, a far cry from the uncertain young woman who'd left her family's expectations behind 5 years ago. The drive to Grandview Manor took 15 minutes through the city's historic district. The building was a stunning example of Gilded Age architecture, with limestone facades and crystal chandeliers visible through tall windows. I'd purchased it 3 years ago when the previous owners couldn't afford the renovations it needed, investing another $1 million to restore it to its original grandeur. As I pulled into the private owner's parking spot behind the building, I could hear music and laughter drifting from the grand ballroom. Through the lit windows I could see silhouettes of guests dancing and celebrating. For a moment, I imagined what it would have been like to be inside, part of the celebration, sharing in my parents' joy instead of being viewed as a threat to it. James met me at the private entrance, his expression serious but supportive. "They're in the grand ballroom, ma'am. About 60 guests. The celebration has been going well aside from the earlier incident." "How did my mother seem when you spoke with her?" "Quite agitated. She's very concerned about maintaining appearances in front of their guests. She mentioned several times that many influential people are in attendance tonight." I nodded, recognizing the pattern. My mother had always been acutely aware of social status and how things appeared to their social circle. She also asked detailed questions about our ownership and management structure. I think she's trying to determine if we're the right kind of establishment for her family's future events. "What did you tell her?" "Only that our owner maintains very high standards and personally oversees all major events." "Good. Please ask Mrs. Henderson to meet me in the Manor office. Tell her the venue owner is ready to discuss the security situation and future arrangements." The Manor office was an elegant space I'd designed for private meetings with clients. Rich mahogany paneling, leather chairs, and subtle lighting created an atmosphere of understated luxury. I'd hosted meetings here with celebrities, politicians, and business leaders, negotiating contracts worth millions of dollars. I settled behind the antique desk and waited, my hands folded calmly in front of me. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. I was about to meet with my own mother as a business owner addressing a client complaint about myself. 5 minutes later, my mother entered, followed by James. Patricia Henderson looked stunning in a sapphire blue gown that complemented her silver hair, which was perfectly styled in an elegant updo. She'd always been beautiful, and tonight she glowed with the confidence of a woman celebrating 25 years of marriage surrounded by friends and family. Her expression shifted from expectation to confusion when she saw me. "Sophia? What are you doing here?" "I thought security called the owner." "Hello, Mother. Please have a seat." She remained standing, her confusion deepening. "I don't understand. I was told the venue owner wanted to speak with me about tonight's security issue." "That's correct. But you're..." The realization began to dawn in her eyes. "You work here." In a manner of speaking. James stepped forward with the professionalism I'd come to appreciate. "Mrs. Henderson, may I present Sophia Torres, owner and CEO of Torres Hospitality Group." The color drained from my mother's face. "Owner? I own Grandview Manor, Mother. Along with 14 other venues across the city, 3 restaurants, and a catering company that employs over 300 people." She sank into the leather chair, her hand clutching her pearl necklace. "That's not possible." I opened the folder James had prepared, spreading out documents that detailed Torres Hospitality Group's holdings and financial performance. 5 years ago, when you told me I was wasting my life in hospitality, I was actually building Torres Hospitality Group from the ground up. The meaningless service jobs you dismissed were teaching me every aspect of this industry. But you dropped out of society. You disappeared. I didn't disappear. I was working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, learning how to run a business that now generates $43 million annually. My mother stared at the financial reports spread before her, her eyes widening as she took in the numbers. 43 million? This quarter alone. Torres Hospitality Group has become the premier luxury event company in the state. We handle weddings for tech billionaires, corporate events for Fortune 500 companies, and political fundraisers for senators and governors. Why didn't you tell us? I leaned back in my chair, studying the woman who'd given birth to me but had never really seen me. When would I have told you? During the family dinners where you lectured me about my life choices? At the social events I stopped being invited to? Or perhaps when you and Dad decided I was too much of an embarrassment to include in family celebrations? She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. For 5 years, you've told everyone that I was a failure. That I'd thrown away my potential for servant work. You had no idea that I was building something significant because you'd already decided I was worthless. Sophia, we never said you were worthless. You banned me from tonight's celebration. You told security to prevent me from returning to my own property. You called me an embarrassment in front of my own employees. I gestured to James, who maintained his professional demeanor despite the awkwardness of the situation. Tears began forming in her eyes, threatening to ruin her carefully applied makeup. We didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You saw what you wanted to see, a disappointment who'd failed to meet your expectations. I stood and walked to the window overlooking the ballroom. Through the glass, I could see the anniversary celebration in full swing. Dad was on the dance floor with Aunt Carmen, both of them laughing at something she'd whispered in his ear. My brother Miguel was at the bar with his wife Elena, probably telling stories about his latest business deal. The scene looked perfect, happy, complete. They all think I'm a failure too, don't they? I asked without turning around. Sophia. It's okay, Mother. I know what the family thinks of me. Miguel makes jokes about his sister who serves drinks for a living. Aunt Carmen tells people I'm going through a phase. Dad pretends I don't exist when his business associates ask about his children. We were worried about you. You just disappeared from our lives. I turned back to face her. I didn't disappear. You stopped seeing me. There's a difference. She wiped her eyes carefully, trying not to smudge her makeup. What happens now? That depends on you. What do you mean? I returned to my seat behind the desk, picking up the evening's invoice. Tonight's bill comes to $18,000. Your deposit covered $12,000. The remaining $6,000 is due upon completion of the event. She nodded, reaching for her purse with trembling hands. However, as the venue owner, I have some decisions to make. James mentioned you wanted to ensure I couldn't attend future family events held here. My mother's face went pale again. Sophia, I could certainly honor that request. I could add Sophia Torres to a banned list, ensuring she never sets foot in Grandview Manor again. Please don't. Or, I continued, I could do something different. What? I returned to my seat behind the desk. I could waive tonight's remaining balance as a 25th anniversary gift to my parents. She looked up hopefully. And I could invite Sophia Torres to join the celebration she was originally banned from. You would do that? After everything? Despite everything, Mother. You're still my family. She stood slowly, smoothing her gown with hands that still trembled slightly. What should I tell your father? The rest of the family? Tell them the truth. That your daughter isn't the failure you thought she was. And then we see if there's room in this family for the person I've become, rather than the person you wanted me to be. My mother walked to the door, then turned back. Sophia. Yes. I'm proud of what you've built, even if I don't understand how you did it. Thank you, Mother. Will you come back to the party? I looked down at my business suit, then at the evening gown hanging in the office closet. I'd learned to keep formal wear here for client emergencies. Give me 10 minutes to change. We'll wait for you. As she left, I called James. Please prepare a bottle of our finest champagne for the Henderson anniversary celebration. The 1996 Dom Perignon from my private collection. And add a note. Congratulations on 25 years. Here's to many more. Sophia Torres, Grandview Manor. Yes, ma'am. Should I also inform the kitchen about the complimentary dessert course? Make it something special. And James? Thank you for handling this with such professionalism. Of course, ma'am. If I may say so, your family is very lucky to have you. 20 minutes later, I entered the grand ballroom wearing a midnight blue gown that I'd purchased for a charity gala but never worn. The conversation gradually died as guests noticed me, confusion rippling through the crowd as they tried to place the elegant woman who'd appeared seemingly from nowhere. Dad stood frozen on the dance floor, his face cycling through confusion, shock, and something that might have been pride. The band continued playing, but the dancers had stopped to stare. Miguel approached first, his wife Elena close behind. Sophia? Mom said you own this place. I do. How is that possible? I thought you were working in catering. I am working in catering, Miguel. I own the largest catering and events company in the state. Elena's eyes widened. You're the Sophia Torres? The one who catered the governor's inauguration. Among other events, yes. Miguel looked around at the elegant ballroom, the crystal chandeliers, the impeccable service his family had been enjoying all evening. You built all this? This and more. Dad finally reached me, his face wet with tears. Mija, I'm so sorry. We have a lot to talk about, Dad. Yes, we do. He looked around at the elegant ballroom, the staff moving seamlessly to provide perfect service, the details that spoke of true luxury. You built all this? This and 14 other venues, Dad. Plus restaurants and a catering operation that serves clients across 3 states. He pulled me into a hug. Can you forgive a foolish old man? We're family, Dad. That's what family does. As the evening continued, I found myself surrounded by relatives who suddenly wanted to know everything about my business. The same people who'd dismissed my career choice 5 years ago now hung on every word about revenue projections and expansion plans. Aunt Carmen, who'd spent years pitying me at family gatherings, now bragged to her friends about her successful niece. Miguel, who'd made jokes about my drink-serving job, asked if I needed any legal representation for my business dealings. But the moment that mattered most came at midnight when Dad raised his glass for a final toast. 25 years ago, Patricia and I started a family, he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. Tonight, I learned that family isn't about meeting expectations. It's about supporting each other's dreams, even when we don't understand them. He looked directly at me. To my daughter Sophia, who built something beautiful while we weren't paying attention. We're sorry we missed watching you succeed, but we're grateful you've given us a chance to celebrate it now. The applause was thunderous. As I stood there in my own ballroom, surrounded by family who finally saw me for who I'd become, I realized something important. Sometimes the best revenge is building something so beautiful that your critics have no choice but to become your biggest supporters. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those critics turn out to be family worth forgiving.